I'm going to say something at the beginning of our segment here today that's probably going to trigger some of you atheists, so fair warning. Before you run to the comments section, just give me a fair hearing and just calm yourself. Take a chill pill, breath, drink some water, whatever you need to do. But I'm just going to tell you, atheists, those of you who are living on the fart fumes of past atheists like Dawkins, Harris, and Chris Hitchens, you guys are dinosaurs. That old act is tired, weak, and unimpressive. Christians like Bill Craig would stand toe-to-toe with those guys, and he was a truly smart man and is a truly smart man. And he gave cosmological arguments, moral arguments, and produced brilliant syllogisms that exposed the fact that atheists have done little of the same kind of thoughtfulness, but Christians have learned their lesson when we engage with people on that level. Many of these atheists in the past were bad faith actors, and they didn't care about intellectual rigor. In the past, when weak Christians didn't know how to play offense, they stood back, defended their claim, while atheists used people like Hitchens and their spaghetti monster and sky daddy comments to try to act like teenage boys rather than to actually have a substantive argument. Sure, Craig fell into the habit of taking them a little too seriously, but he honestly did some noble work. However, a new crop of apologists are coming up, and people are waking up to the incredible delusion of atheism. And they now realize that there is no logical explanation for the origin of the universe from atheism. Instead, so desperate are atheists to believe that God doesn't exist that they're willing to posit a blind faith assertion about the origin of the universe like this.
And that designer could well be a higher intelligence from elsewhere in the universe.
For those listening, that was Dawkins talking about aliens rather than God. So desperate are atheists to prove that God doesn't exist that they will clown themselves to the point of having to admit that they have to steal moral values from Christians.
What's your moral code? I suppose it's a version of the golden rule.
That was Dawkins again, by the way, stealing moral values from Christians. But no more. We're done. Weak Christians have given way to an all-new crop of believers who refuse to back down to bullies, who try to make up for their flimsy arguments with volume and indignation. Today's viral clip is going to show you exactly why the religion of atheism was destined to fail and why well-known atheists like Matt Dillahunty need to retreat from debates today rather than to hang in there, as we look at quote-unquote blood sport debater Andrew Wilson go toe-to-toe with Matt Dillahunty. Check it out.
Humanism has as its focus the betterment of humanity in this life, while Christianity has as its focus adherence to a God and the disposition of souls in an afterlife. Our best efforts in this life are, according to the Bible, like filthy rags. Our best attempts at righteousness and justice are portrayed as vile and disgusting when compared to a bumbling God constantly failing to get his creation to love and respect him, while also prescribing the death penalty for nearly everything: adultery, blasphemy, breaking the Sabbath, disobedient children, witchcraft, worshiping another god, not being a virgin on your wedding night. Which is better for society? Well, I'd say the one that has human society as its focus and isn't so intent on killing humans for not buying into a specific doctrine.
Now, I wanted to stop this clip real quick just so that I can say to you, this is going to play into the future of what Matt Dillahunty says to Andrew Wilson. He claims here that Christians are basically a bunch of morons for believing what they believe. Oh, and a bunch of hateful bigots, of course. So he is willing to throw around ad hominem attacks, but watch how precious and sensitive he becomes as Andrew Wilson starts to launch into his position.
My name is Andrew Wilson. There's a few ways this debate could go. The topic is Christian ethics versus secular humanism, which has a better foundation. The funny thing is, I already won that topic because, as Matt explained to Jay Dyer, he has no justification under the skeptical belief structure to give an accounting for any meta-ethical presupposition he may have. He just kind of grants himself stuff. He grants himself logic, he grants himself reason, he grants himself an entire worldview, even though he's using an unjustified starting position for it. So I'm not honestly all that interested in doing the God not real dough debate because, one, it's boring, and two, it's also really boring. It goes like this. I don't see enough evidence and remain unconvinced there's a God. Then I say, but you use a theistic worldview of justification like there is a God to grant yourself logic and everything else. So instead of that, I'm just going to grant Matt's entire worldview. 2/3 or more of this entire planet are all operating inside of a shared delusion that they were created by a sky daddy who loves him some slavery and murderousness. You see, human flourishing, the cornerstone of Matt's ideology and that of secular humanism, is totally meaningless. Flourishing by whose metric? From my perspective, for instance, attempting to lie to people who claim men can be women isn't human flourishing. From Matt's perspective, it is. Why? Why should the collective of humanity lie and say men can get pregnant? Homosexuality in society is good for human flourishing, even though they are reproductive dead ends. And that Western society and egalitarianism is superior to those evil theist society, even though the Western nations can't even reproduce their own populations, but instead have to replace their population with foreigners from those theist nations that can reproduce.
I'm not going to sit here and dignify the preparation that I went through.
Oh, well, you've done some great study there, Matt, to make sure that you're ready for this debate.
I don't know Andrew at all. I don't know what version of Christianity he's advocating for.
How dare someone have an opposing worldview?
I'm not going to sit here and dignify what was supposed to be a debate about Christianity versus secular humanism, which one's better for the world.
Yes.
With someone who clearly showed up with an agenda that has nothing to do with that. Someone who refers to trans people as deranged lunatics who will self-terminate if you dare to question them.
How am I wrong, Matt?
This guy's not serious, and I'm leaving. James, if you want a refund, you
well,
let me know.
good day, sir.
There you have it. Rage quitting because this atheist finally finds a guy who is willing to take the logical conclusion of his beliefs and make him own up to them. Now, I heard Trent Horn talk about this debate, and he had some great things to say about it. I highly encourage you to check it out. However, his takeaway was that Andrew Wilson was giving kind of a Pascalian, if that's how you would say it, argument that if you take atheism at their word, you would be much better off believing in Christianity because of its results, even if it weren't true. And I think that's a very minor point, actually, to the ultimate debate, because I think actually what Andrew Wilson is doing here is something that other Christians have not done in the past, which is to do this. He is granting the premise of humanism to Matt Dillahunty, and then he is giving the ultimate conclusion of that premise, and then making Matt Dillahunty defend his ideas when we see what they actually lead to. Now, again, most Christians in the past just played defense. They allowed atheists of the past to attack them and attack their views, and then Christians would get on the defensive and defend why they actually believe what they believe, rather than to analyze the claims of the humanism and how frail and empty they are. By the way, humanists like Matt Dillahunty might even intuitively know how frail and thin their arguments actually are, and that's why they have to go on the offensive, and that's why they have to attack. Now, I'm good with the offensive if you've got the goods to be able to back it up. And Andrew Wilson does here. He makes Matt Dillahunty answer for his ridiculous worldview, and Matt Dillahunty refuses, I think, because he can't. I've heard Matt on a couple of different occasions, and I have to be honest with you, I've been thoroughly unimpressed. Now, I know you're going to say that's because you're a Christian, but simply, this is the kind of thing that ultimately we get whether he retreats or not. We get intellectual retreats rather than actually dignifying the subject matter with the kind of dignity it deserves. So forgive Andrew Wilson for not giving the kind of dignity to Matt Dillahunty that he thinks he deserves, especially after Matt Dillahunty comes out and says, I don't really know anything about this guy and haven't researched him at all. He never took it seriously in the first place, and he was there to pontificate and pretend he was some kind of moral better, and that he had the intellectual prowess to enter into the ring with Andrew Wilson. When he found out he didn't, he ran away. Now, if you're not a Christian, I know you're probably going to argue with everything that I just said there, and that's fine. But I hope you can find some place in your heart to admit that atheists of the past really were just dog and pony shows. And really, they were just a pony show with just one trick, and that was to blast and browbeat Christians as dumb and superstitious. Now, I'm thankful for modern atheists like Alex O'Connor, the cosmic skeptic, because he's a far cry from those atheists of old. He doesn't have the bite that atheism did in the past. And frankly, atheism really can't stand without it. Now that strong Christians are coming onto the scene to beat back the culture-shifting leftism of our time, we're realizing something I hope every Christian hears me loud and clear on. Defense was played simply out of ease. It's not loving and it's not true. And the Christian who leans into social liberalism and then is applauded isn't doing anything to fight conservatism. Rather, he's just standing against his own faith in order to win approval points. Why would he do something like that? because weakness comes natural to us all. It's the easiest thing that we can possibly do, to actually stand up and defend your ideas and go beyond defending your ideas, but attacking the ideas that deserve to be attacked takes real strength and courage, something we don't see very often. It won't always get you likes, too, on social media. That's why very many narcissistic, self-obsessed Christian leaders won't go on the offensive. As a result, we have a coddled generation of Christians who have weak arguments and don't know how to really stand for their faith. But more and more Christians are starting to realize this and are waking up. They're realizing true love speaks the truth. In fact, it may be one of the most radical acts of benevolence in a world that will applaud you for lying. True love tells the truth. It's especially needed at a time where weak-willed Christian leaders have a narcissistic desire to get attention more so than to tell the truth. For those passive players, I can only hope that a more offensive version of Christianity grips their hearts and wins the day, because we need it for our culture. And my advice is to simply, for all of us, don't go for the appearance of good. Go for the reality of goodness, because that's what will change the world. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and to go with God.
So you just got done watching a small excerpt of a much larger episode. You can find the link to that full episode down below in the description of this video. So you definitely want to check that out, because if you like that clip, you'll like the much larger episode. And while you're at it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and click that little bell to be notified when great new episodes of Indie Thinker come your way. Thanks for watching.